You think the dollar and SWIFT are untouchable? China is quietly preparing a financial weapon that could change everything. Can the ECNY, the digital yuan, truly challenge the US financial empire? Or is it just a distant dream? The global financial battlefield is on the brink of eruption, and China is the enigmatic challenger stepping into the ring. If you think America is just skyscrapers and fancy cars, you're way off. The US is the global kingpin, not because of Hollywood or Big Macs, but because of two incredibly powerful weapons, the US dollar and the SWIFT payment system. These aren't just tools for sending money or settling trades, they're instruments of global control. Want to do international business? You have to go through America's system. And if you dare go against their will, boom, you get kicked out of SWIFT, just like Iran, Russia, Venezuela, Syria, or North Korea. No SWIFT means no transactions, no economy. A financial ghost island. That's how the US flexes its power without firing a single shot. But China isn't willing to stay in that chokehold forever. After being financially throttled by the US one too many times, Beijing decided to go solo. They started building their own financial infrastructure, cutting out the dollar, dodging SWIFT, so they'd never have to dance to America's tune again. And just like that, a new game began. No more wars with bombs. This is a currency war. Whoever controls the money flow writes the rules. And China, clearly, has no intention of playing by America's rules anymore. China isn't naive. They understand the game all too well. Whoever controls the global payment system holds the power to choke the rest of the world whenever they feel like it. And clearly, China's own neck isn't exactly safe while it remains entangled in the SWIFT system. A rope pulled tighter each day by the West, especially the US. After the 2008 financial crisis, when it was the US itself that burst the bubble and dragged the world into chaos, China saw a harsh truth. The global financial system is a game where they neither write the rules nor referee the match. And when the US started using sanctions like toys to punish the disobedient, from Iran to Venezuela, China realized, one day, we'll be the target too. Then came the US-China trade war. No bombs, no missiles, just a few tweets from Trump, yes, him again, and global markets shook like a truck hitting a pothole. Every one of his tweets was a blow to China, and those blows never came alone. They brought tariffs, tech bans, and financial threats. By 2022, things reached a breaking point. Russia invaded Ukraine, and the West, true to form, pulled out SWIFT like a magic wand. Russia was booted from the system, and the result? Major banks like Sberbank and VTB were left financially mute on the global stage. No transfers, no transactions. The Russian economy stalled like a car breaking down in the fast lane. China saw a glimpse of its own possible future, and they weren't about to wait around for it. So, in 2014, they quietly launched a plan to build CIPS, cross-border interbank payment system, their own alternative to SWIFT. No SWIFT, no dollars, just yuan. And a handful of willing partners ready to say no to America. CIPS isn't just an international payment app. It's China's declaration of financial independence. Like setting up a private hotline instead of always calling through America's switchboard. China is telling the world, we don't need to play by your rules anymore, and we know you're tired of them too. The real question is the world ready to change the channel? And more importantly, will the US willingly give up the remote? That's the real game. China didn't just walk out of the financial party hosted by the US in a huff. They threw their own party, even grander, and sent out exclusive invitations. The name of that party? ECNY. Let's rewind to 2014. While the world was still busy arguing whether Bitcoin was a currency or just a glorified Ponzi scheme, China quietly did something no one else dared to imagine. Created a fully legal digital currency, issued and controlled entirely by its central bank. While the US was still tangled in endless discussions about the future of digital finance, Beijing skipped the meetings and got to work. By 2022, ECNY was being piloted in China's most elite cities: Beijing, Shanghai, Shenzhen. And in a genius move, it was woven into the Winter Olympics as a kind of global debut. The message was crystal clear. We don't just make your iPhones, We're rewriting the rules of money now. But ECNY isn't some rebellious crypto like Bitcoin, the kind you mine in your garage with a stack of GPUs. This is real money, printed through lines of code, fully managed by the People's Bank of China. In other words, Beijing doesn't just print the money, it tags every unit with GPS. Who gets it, who sends it, when, where? The government knows it all. By 2024, ECNY started its international tour. No longer just a domestic trial, it began flowing into ASEAN and the Middle East, regions where China has spent years building quiet but deep influence. Now, there's no need for SWIFT, no need to route through the US. Transactions? Direct. Speed? Like TikTok. 7 seconds per transfer. Fees? Almost zero. Meanwhile, the US financial system feels like it's still running on dial-up. And while Washington is still stuck in gridlock over debt ceilings and Trump is either in court or ranting on his outdated social platform, Beijing has silently plugged ECNY into the arteries of global trade. No missiles, no warships, just a new way to move money. ECNY isn't just currency. It's a declaration of war, fought with technology. And while America still sees itself as the host of the global party, China has quietly taken the chef's seat in the kitchen. Imagine you're playing a game of chess. Every time you're about to checkmate, your opponent flips the board, accuses you of cheating, and demands to start over by their rules. That's exactly how China feels being trapped in a US-controlled financial system. And this time, they've decided enough. They're building their own board. Back in 2014, while Donald Trump was still busy with reality TV and hadn't yet dreamed of the White House, China quietly began developing something that seemed almost science fiction. A digital version of the yuan, known as the ECNY. While the rest of the world argued over whether Bitcoin was digital gold or just a toy for speculators, Beijing entered the real game, with a digital currency issued and fully controlled by its central bank. By 2022, while the world was busy watching the Winter Olympics in Beijing and anxiously monitoring the brewing crisis in Ukraine, China was quietly testing ECNY in megacities like Beijing, Shanghai, and Shenzhen. This wasn't a tech beta launch like something out of Silicon Valley. It was China's way of telling the world, we're not just playing the game, we're rewriting the rules. And don't confuse ECNY with shaky cryptocurrencies like Bitcoin or Ethereum, the ones that spook Wall Street but haven't done much beyond stirring up markets. ECNY is not a cryptocurrency. It's real money, legally backed, policy-driven, and under the firm command of the People's Bank of China. Every transaction is traceable. Every unit of currency has eyes. This isn't financial freedom. This is digital order with Chinese characteristics, and it works frighteningly well. Now comes the part that's keeping Washington up at night. In 2024, ECCNY started reaching beyond China's borders. Integration with ASEAN countries? Done. Partnerships in the Middle East? Also done. Half the world is now transacting with China without using SWIFT, without touching the dollar, transferring money in 7 seconds flat, and with almost no fees. Ask JP Morgan or the Fed, they're definitely not smiling. While the US is still wrestling with inflation, debt ceilings, and a former president yelling "stop the steal" whenever he loses, China has quietly installed a new version of the global financial operating system. And this time, they're the admin. In short, ECNY isn't just a digital currency. It's a cold, clear declaration. We're not just escaping the shadow of the dollar, we're shining a spotlight right back at you. We all know one thing, when China makes a move, it doesn't play halfway. With ECNY, the digital yuan, Beijing isn't just aiming to bypass a US-dominated financial system. It wants to become the new king of the digital currency world. Sounds impressive, doesn't it? But reality isn't a blockbuster movie. And in this story, the main character is facing some serious obstacles. First off, ECNY is branded as a dollar alternative. But let's not forget, its reliability and stability are still major question marks. You can roll out the flashiest product, but if the world doesn't trust it, it's just an expensive toy no one dares to touch. Then there's the fact that China's financial market is still tightly sealed, with the state controlling everything from exchange rates to capital flows. To the outside world, this feels like handing over your money to a company that won't even show you its balance sheet. Nobody wants to play in a game where one side writes and rewrites the rules at will. On top of that, finance and politics in China are inseparable, like glue. When the government says jump, the financial system asks how high. This makes other countries uneasy. If political winds shift tomorrow, could ECNY become a tool for punishment? Just imagine a Chinese version of Trump, but with 10x the power because he controls the entire global payment system. Chilling thought, isn't it? In short, while ECNY is an ambitious and strategic move, it's not yet sturdy enough to dethrone the dollar or serve as a global reserve asset. China still has a long list of challenges to overcome, from winning international trust to easing fears of authoritarian control. So, can ECNY really change the game, or will it go down as just another unfinished monetary dream? The match is far from over, but the road ahead is definitely not paved with roses. The story between the US and China is no longer just a trade war or some impulsive presidential tweets that go say it, do it. This is a global, geopolitical, and financial chess match where the pawns aren't soldiers. They're money, data, and trust. The US still holds global power through the dollar and the SWIFT system, two weapons that allow it to punish anyone who dares step out of line. Meanwhile, China has been quietly forging its own sword, carefully preparing its strategic pieces. With ECNY, SIPs, and an enormous vision, Beijing is writing a new rulebook with a clear goal: to break free from Washington's grip and seize control of the global financial game. Sounds like an action movie, but in real life, there are no superheroes. There are only nations trying to survive between two giants, each trying to impose their own rules. But here's the catch. To dethrone the US, China will need more than just flashy payment systems and apps. Trust can't be built with lines of code or government resolutions. And that's exactly where Beijing is still struggling. Let's say ECNY does succeed and replaces the dollar. What happens then? Sure, the US may lose its status as the sanctions overlord, but other countries still wouldn't be free. They'd simply go from following Washington to following Beijing. Same game, just new players. Put another way, if the global financial system is a poker table, most of the world is still just standing around, pouring drinks. So who should the world be rooting for? The US, who's turned finance into a weapon of punishment, or China, who wants the throne through a digital currency yet still locks down its domestic market? Maybe, instead of picking sides, the world should focus on building a new table, one where the rules serve everyone, not just one superpower. But to get there, we still have a long road ahead, and let's not count on Trump to write the script for that future.